Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Dream Crushers podcast. We're going to try something a little bit different today. We have no topic, so if it's painful, sorry. This is basically us bullshitting.
Yeah, we're just going to podcast. Enjoy. Furniture, huh?
Yeah. A lot more comfortable than this one.
Yeah, these chairs aren't that comfortable. But yeah, I like those pads that you got. I think they'll work out nice. They were very similar to the ones that I've used before. And that chair was comfy.
I don't mean to fuck up your conversation already, but I was thinking about this a little bit ago. It's like so quiet out here, aside from that shit right there. But it's not. You just listen to the fucking sound of the city. It's like, I don't know if that's mostly freeway or if that's just
like that whirring noise or whatever.
Yeah, it's kind of like a rumble. It's almost like the end of a thunder clap, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's not totally gone yet, but you still hear it just kind of bouncing off the mountains. But
yeah, we're still...
Is that mostly the freeway? Or
we're still...
Is that just everything? Like a fucking...
I don't think we're that close to the freeway. Isn't the freeway on the other side of that mountain?
Is it? It's gotta be.
I think it's on the other side of that mountain.
I mean, it's probably just collectively everything.
Yeah.
I just heard a freaking motorcycle in there. So
we're still close enough to the city to.
I know. I mean,
It's
all
like
reverberating. But it's like so fucking constant and just. It's frustrating me. That's what I'm getting at. It's because I love being out in the middle of nowhere, like not so much. I hate the desert. I really do. This does not. My sister thinks this is so pretty, and I don't. It's just so.
We're just used to this.
I guess.
It just looks like the edge of the city to us. So
that's why I like Mount Charleston.
That Mount Charleston's really cool. Like up north, where I go hunting, it's kind of barren like this, but it looks different. Like there's some quakey, some trees up there, like in tiny little patches, and there's like a lot of like thick sage and stuff, but it's just like big like rolling hills, and you're literally out in the middle of nowhere.
Is there green though? Like trees?
The sage.
I mean, this is all green too.
The sage is like the sage is kind of similar to this, but it's not like super lush. It's desert still, but it.
I have to see it. I like it when there's at least like Joshua trees and shit like that around. It's kind of cool, but just growing up in the mountains, I just love the trees. Like being in the thick, where you really can't see that far. Maybe that's I don't know. Maybe that's
I like that too. I like just like walking through the woods. You just feel like you don't know if you're right next to something or far away.
That might be it. I mean, right here, it's like, yeah, you can see so far, and it's almost disconcerting. Whereas, like when you're in the fucking forest, and especially like when you're in a place where like the mountains are, and you really can't see much more than like 100 feet away from you.
Yeah, did you know that like the Arctic is a desert?
No.
Antarctica is a desert.
Meaning what? It's pretty much this, but it's frozen?
Dry. Deserts are defined by being dry, not hot. A lot of people think that the desert means that it's hot, but the desert is actually defined by its dryness.
And what's dryness? The amount of precipitation and stuff that it gets? Or?
Yeah, I guess. Because,
I mean, I don't know, I picture the Arctic, at least on maps and stuff, it's like white.
Yeah.
Which would
snow.
Wouldn't that be ice and snow? So what, it just sticks
Well,
around
it's just
forever?
Ice. Yeah, I think it's just mostly just ice, like on certain spots down there. Yeah, I think it's just ice. It just stays like super dry and cold.
It's interesting. So by definition, it's a desert, or?
Yeah. Yeah, it just stays like so cold that it never like melts. And it's never like wet or moisture. It'd be a hard life out there. There ain't much out there.
What kind of temperature is there?
I've seen in some penguin documentaries talking about it getting to like negative 200.
What?
Yeah.
Really? Can you even live in that? Penguins apparently
Not
can.
people, yeah, not people. All right.
Negative 200. That's fucking weird.
Yeah. Super weird. That's why like at like certain times of the year or whatever, the penguins all just huddle together and they just don't move. They just are squished together.
That's the life. I wonder if they're ever like, man, we should move to Vegas.
Go live with Wayne Newton. He's got penguins. That was neat. It's getting nice out. Getting much cooler. I'm excited for the winter. I think we're going to get a lot, well, speaking of snow, I think we're going to get a lot more snow up on Mount Charleston this year.
I think I would like to go. We don't have a four-wheel drive though. We went once, and the 4Runner was sliding around quite a bit.
Just on the
A
road,
little
or you
disconcerting. No, we went.
off?
We just went off, and it had already snowed. It wasn't snowing yet, and we just went off on this little side thing where there's like some hills and stuff like that. And we just went out and went sledding and stuff. Nothing real big, but then it started snowing while we were up there, and you could see a pretty decent layer of snow on the ground.
snow.
And when we were going back out to get up on the road, it was like a bit of a hill, and Caroline was freaking out. But yeah, we were like going sideways, and I was having a good old time, but at the same time in the back of my head I was like, fuck, we're gonna be stuck here because I can't get up this hill.
Yeah.
We're just fucking going side by side. It's like, like a fish trying to get up this hill.
Yeah, it's like
She's
scary. Like certain times you have to like just get momentum and hope like there's no cars.
That's pretty much what we did. Was
coming,
try it a
yeah.
couple times, and then we fucked up the snow so much that kind of just went over the
Got
same
back
track
to- yeah.
and backed up a little bit and took off again. And finally we got up there, but at the same time I was like, man, I kind of don't want to drive back down the mountain in this. This is freaky, but yeah, just two-wheel drive.
Yeah.
It's not cool. I had a two-wheel, my Corolla was two-wheel drive in Colorado. That thing was great. It made me fall in love
You
with
got
two-wheel
all
drive.
Got all the weight in the front, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, front-wheel drive cars do fairly well in the snow. But yeah, it's amazing what a difference those extra two wheels make. And it's like crazy. Like you'll come up, it'll be like something small like that. You just come up to just a slight incline. And before I had my 4Runner, when I had my Tundra, it was two-wheel drive. And I've been places where, in like Utah, where like my friend's parents lived in a neighborhood that was like inclined. And we went, it like had snowed there and there was snow around, but the streets were all clear. And we like went to a movie, and when we came out, it had been snowing for the last couple hours, like the whole time we were in the movie. And leaving, it was all, the roads were all snowy, like just with like a little bit of snow, but like really slick, and like it wasn't enough for like the snow plows to go through yet, and they usually don't go through till like the morning. And like I almost didn't make it up the I had to just like get speed and go, and even though I was like going with some speed, I was still kicking sideways here and there, and just had to like work my way up and just kind of throttle it all the way up the hill. It was pretty crazy, and it was scary too. Like we were leaving like the next day, and driving out on the freeway, there was like multiple spots where cars had slid off the freeway, and there's like things stopped, and like it was a little bit sketchy. Yeah, it's amazing. I love just knowing that I have four-wheel drive for when I need it, and I've gone like some crazy places, so I've pushed it so I know like what it can handle. So for like simple driving stuff, I know like what I can safely do and what like risks I can take.
That makes me want to have one now, just to have.
It's
I love the Mustang, and I love being able to slide around, but I imagine there's times when you don't want to slide around so much.
Yeah, you're
Cool.
like, all right,
you know what?
that was fun.
Let's take the phone out.
Let's live now. Yeah.
That the house I showed you in Colorado, the road, the main road was up probably like the equivalent of like 4 stories, and so the dirt road that went up was very steep getting up to that, and then there's a bridge there because we had to cross the river in order to get to the highway, and that was fucking gnarly scary because the bridge is just everything. The whole road was just 1 car wide.
Yeah.
And the bridge was 1 car wide, and it didn't have any walls. It just had the big railroad ties, like the big, like I want to say like 8 by 8. It's still not much, and especially like in the rearview mirror, you can't see
it.
Yeah. So you would go up this thing, and you knew you had to kind of do it fast when it was snowing and stuff like that. Fucking steep as fuck, but it was like windy too. So like you would go up and you get some speed, and you'd go up and you cross the bridge, and then it got really steep after the bridge. And you start to lose it, and then you start to slide backwards, and you're like, fuck. And then it's like the bridge wasn't straight with the road, so you're not just coming straight back down. It's like you're starting to slide, and there's like so many people that would come down, and they would like kind of go off and get like stuck on the corner of the bridge. But it was like, oh my God, the bridge was fucking high too.
Yeah, I would imagine that it went probably pretty far down to the river, right?
Yeah, it was. It was pretty far. I mean, I don't think it was like death, but I mean, your car's fucked, that's for sure.
Yeah.
That was.
Yeah, or if you get trapped and nobody sees you in a snowstorm, or you go into the river.
People are gonna see you there. Luckily, unfortunately, there was only 6 houses down there, so it's not a whole lot of traffic for people to see you. But you would definitely see the tracks in the snow coming back down. And since everybody lives down there, they kind of know what it takes to get up there. That's actually what fucking infuriates me the most. Is I told you that house that. This is all going to be fucking wasted because they have no idea what I'm talking about. It's a big-ass mansion that they built. They paved that whole road from their house up before it was dirt. It's like dirt behaves so much better when it freezes over.
Yeah.
Then they freaking paved it going up that. I was like, are you kidding me? And I doubt they decided to heat the whole thing. I mean, if they did, great. But they're not going to heat the whole... Something. Hopefully they do something because, man, I cannot imagine living there with that paved in the winter.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, now we got an ice skating rink to get up to the main highway, and it's still the same frickin'...
It's pretty crazy, though, when it gets, like, cold enough and the ground freezes. Like, it'll get like that up in the mountains, and, like, I've gotten, like, stuck before, and you're, like, trying to get out, and you, like, try and break away the snow and the ice so you can get to the dirt and get some traction, and you get through, and it's, like, conk, 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 and the ground is just, like, hard and frozen, and it's like wet from everything, and it's like wet asphalt basically because it just turns the ground into asphalt. But yeah, having even if you have 2-wheel drive, having traction boards is amazingly helpful. You can get out of like most things.
Does it have to be deep though in order for this to work?
The traction boards?
Yeah, I mean some of them are kind of shallow, so it doesn't seem like it would work for anything. But I swear, like a lot of them are almost like ramps. They're like thick.
They are, but they're tapered.
Be, like, buried in mud or something.
No, yeah, they're tapered. So and they got like nubs at the edge. You just wedge it in there, or worst case scenario, you get your jack out and jack up the vehicle a little bit and just set it underneath it, and lower it on top of it, and then you can go. But usually you can get enough movement when you're like stuck to where you can just put it in front, back up a little bit, get a rolling start, get onto it, and then gas it when you're onto the ramp, and it'll push you a little bit if you're like just trying to get back onto the road or something. Like that stuff's like super helpful. And I've had to use it. Even if you have 4-wheel drive, you get into heavy enough snow or mud or whatever, like any rig could get stuck. And it's just like, it's so helpful to have. You have a shovel in those, and you can like self-recover out of most places. It's fun. I enjoy it. Like I enjoy getting stuck at least like once a year.
Sounds ridiculous.
I know, it's like stupid, but it's like it's exciting because like there is like a little bit of fear, like fuck, like I don't know, am I gonna get out?
You've got some experience though. I imagine the level of fear is completely different.
If I
got stuck, I'd be like, fuck, I've never gotten out of anything like this.
Yeah,
so.
I have a more like controlled sense of it now, to where I haven't. Okay, I've been here before. I know what it's gonna take. It's gonna be a pain in the ass. I'm gonna have to shovel for an hour, but I can get out for sure. And then there are times though, but it's you're walking on a hair though. It goes from, okay, I'm a little stuck, to you slide 2 feet over and now you're in this ditch. Okay, that's way more complicated. I don't know, am I gonna get out of this one? Like, and it seems, and like Mother Nature always can win, and like she always has a bigger task for you, and like you will always be humbled. Like everybody that I've seen, I don't care how much experience they have, they've gotten stuck, you know. It's like the more you know, the more you push it, and like the deeper you get stuck, you know. It's like I had a buddy that told me when I went, I told him I was excited because I got a 4-wheel drive, and I was like, oh, I'm not gonna get stuck anymore like in my 2-wheel drive. And he's like, no, that's not how it works. He's like, you'll just get stuck further out and it'll be harder to get out. And I was like, oh. And so that kind of stuck with me. So I think about that now. And so when I'm like gonna go, it's not this like, oh, I have 4-wheel drive, I can't get stuck ever. It's like, no, you just get deeper into the weeds, and then when you do get stuck, it'll be a real pain in the ass.
So is that pretty much a rule? Like the desert, not like this kind of desert. Like I see people out in the sand, like in the dunes and stuff like that. You just never go unless somebody else is there, or you go in packs, because like you got a winch. So that's cool. And out there's nothing to tie it to.
Well, they have ground anchors.
What, like you just dig a little hole or something? Like
yeah, there's different. There's different kinds. There's this one company. What's it called? Shoot, I can't think of the name right now. They have this ground anchor system that looks like a giant shovel with this like framework on it, and you basically just kind of shovel it into the ground, and then when you start winching, it just pulls it deeper and deeper into the ground, and then anchors itself, and then you just winch off of that. And then so that one's kind of nice because it's like and then when you're done, you go around to the back and hook up to it and just back up, and it just pulls it out. There's an attachment point to yank it out, so you don't have to like spend time trying to dig it out. Really, really cool thing, and it like folds up. It's like collapsible.
I'm kind of picturing, we've seen old-fashioned like plows. They would like pull behind horses and stuff like that.
It looks exactly like that.
It's got this giant tooth that basically digs into the ground.
That's exactly what it looks like. Pole Pal is the name of that. Shout out to Pole Pal. I've never used one, but I've seen a lot of people use them, and they look really awesome. And then there's another company called Dead Man Off-Road, and they make, it's just
That's not a promising name.
Big piece of name. It's a big piece of material, like super thick, heavy duty, like nylon type material, like rubberized nylon material with big heavy duty straps on it. And it's a multiple use thing. You can either wrap it around like a big boulder if you're somewhere, you know, Moab or something, and there's big rocks everywhere. You can wrap it around that and then use the straps and hook your winch to that and pull yourself out, or you can bury it. They have specifically designed attachment points so that you dig a hole, lay this thing in the ground, bury it, and then the straps that you use like anchor it solidly into the ground, and you can pull yourself like in sand dunes or over a hill or something if there's no spot for you to winch off like a tree. And then when you're done, it's kind of similar with the other thing. You hook up to these different straps that when you pull on them, it like folds it up and it like slips out of the dirt easy, so you don't have to undig it. It was basically an answer to like an old school trick that a lot of off-roaders would use back in the day before ground anchor recovery tools came out, is they would pull their spare tire off, dig a slot in the ground big enough for the spare tire to lay down into, and then hook their strap through the hole in the center and around the spare tire and bury it, and then winch off of their spare tire. But that's a lot of digging, and it's like super pain in the ass. Can you imagine freaking digging in this down to big enough to fit a freaking 35-inch tire or 40-inch tire or whatever? It'd be a pain in the ass. And then you got to lift your spare tire. These things are heavy. But yeah, so the Deadman off-road one folds up nicely and can fit under like a car seat or something. Yeah, it's interesting. I've been so busy with stuff lately. I haven't like gone out on like an actual full off-road trip. We went out last weekend. Me and Izzy went out up to Mount Charleston, and I took some pictures. I still got to edit them and go through them, but there's some cool ones. There's some of the high mountains that are out there are already like covered in snow, so I'm feeling pretty hopeful. But we went out on the road that I normally go down when it is snowing, and took this little side thing and drove out there and got out a little bit in the dirt, and then walked around and sat out there. It's so nice. It's just so quiet. And like, it's crazy because like not only is there not that much noise, but like the forest ground, like the woods ground and like the trees and everything like absorbs noise.
Mm-hmm.
So like any little sound, it's just like when you're talking, it's just like super dampened. Like nothing's echoey. It's like.
How far away is this? Can we go there?
Yeah, it's at Mount Charleston, so it's like probably an hour drive from here.
It's a little rough, but not terrible.
Yeah, but it's super cool spot, easy to get to. It's not that bad. Like 45 minute to an hour drive.
Do you know if we have any listeners that have businesses?
Yes.
Yes.
Like small businesses?
Any kind of businesses. I
Just
just want to talk about the whole customer service thing that we were talking about before we got here.
Oh, yeah.
I'm itching to talk about it, but I
Yeah,
don't
we
really
got-
know.
We got a couple guys. That dude in Arizona that I made the apron for said that he started listening to him. That one guy in Boulder City that messaged both of us.
Uh-huh.
He listens, or he said he was listening to a couple in the beginning. And then I feel like there was one other one too that you said like contacted you or something.
I'm trying to remember if the people that I talk to actually own something or just want to. I kind of want to reach out to people though and get their input on the whole customer service thing. So we're talking about earlier. We were talking about we're both trying to branch off into making furniture. Are you planning on doing it professionally, as in like see if you can make a career out of it or not?
Yeah, I mean, I'm all things like fabrication, but furniture has definitely caught my interest. Making custom shelving and cool slab tables and epoxy stuff and like just really neat things that I've seen.
Kind of put your foot in the water and see if you can make some money out of it, right?
Yeah.
Which is kind of where I'm at. So I've got some plans to make a chair as my first project, and it's exactly that, just to make something because it's fun. If you know how to make stuff, it's incredibly, it's a good feeling to just make something out of nothing. So if all goes terrible, and I can't actually sell this thing, I got a really cool chair and I can be like, yeah, I made that chair, that's cool. But at the same time, earlier we were talking about customer service is going to be huge, and then quality and what it's going to be like, shipping this thing out and making sure your shit doesn't break, first of all. And probably more importantly, you brought up, what if it does? What if you ship out whatever it is, your freaking table or something, and just it's not as good as you thought it was going to be, and it just kind of falls apart?
Yeah, or not even like, because like I'm pretty confident in the work that we can both do, like, and we're so hard on ourselves when it comes to quality that like we're not going to release like something that is going to like fall apart when you sit on it. It's like, it's not so much that, it's like we had talked earlier about using of like pre-manufactured parts. Like if you need to get some bearings for something, or you need like some rollers for a certain design you're gonna do, or even more extreme, if you need like a motor, like a little actuator, and you like want something to move, a chair to move or a table to move or whatever, what happens if you get this product, it seems like a good product. You didn't make the thing, the motor or whatever. You get it. It's got good reviews, whatever. You do your due diligence and try and test it the best you can. But you put it in a chair and it goes good. Everybody loves it. You sell a bunch of them, and then you find out 6 months or even a year in that motor's garbage and it's a giant piece of shit, and they fail consistently at 6 months or something, and now you have to warranty these things, based on having good customer service, having somewhat of a warranty, whether it is 6 months or 2 years or 3 years or however you want to do it. But typically if somebody's going to be buying a product that is going to be like that, electric or whatever, they're going to want some kind of a warranty. That's just how all of products are nowadays. So
yeah, I would think that warranty is kind of assumed with most things.
Yeah.
I mean, even in the Amazon world, you buy something, if it's garbage, Amazon will let you send it back.
Yeah.
So that's really terrifying to me. That's not something I considered. Basically, my mindset was what you just said. It was like, what I build, I'm sure it's like my welds aren't going to fall apart. That's going to be fine. I'll take the time, with the upholstery and stuff like that. All that will be good. So basically, your typical craftsmanship is warranted.
Yeah.
But the outside-ness of like motors and stuff, it's really freaky to me. Right now, I'm thinking it's probably not that big a deal because I'm making my first chair. Mm-hmm. So when I sell that, that's going to be my first sale. And so I'm not going to have to worry about like 100 chairs coming back with busted motors and having to figure out how to finance the replacement of all these motors. So is that even something we need to worry about right now, or definitely something to
it's
keep
not
in mind?
Something that need to specifically like worry and get down about right now, but it's something to keep in the back of your mind for usually when stuff starts selling, starts taking off. It's kind of a snowball effect, It can be somewhat overwhelming. It starts happening, and I just don't want to be into a position myself where I make some things, even if you made 5, not even 100. If you made 5 chairs, people loved them, they bought them, and then 6 months down the road, they come knocking at your door. You got a full plate with whatever your full-time job still. You're working, you're making other chairs or other tables or something. Now you got 5 things you got to repair right now and get back to them while you got this other stuff going on. So you're losing time and money there. Plus you got to pay for a replacement part, find a new one that is going to be better, probably going to have to pay more. And it's just something to keep in mind and not get ahead of ourselves and fully commit with like a bunch of pieces that we're unsure of, maybe just do more rigorous testing,
Maybe some more research then.
More
rather
research,
than like
definitely.
The chair, that's a really interesting thought. My mind,
because it's a totally different thing. It's like a totally different mindset when you go from buying something for yourself than buying something for a product you're going to be putting out there that's going to be out there for years and years. Because it's like, for us, it's like, oh, I want to make this custom door on my car or this custom table that's going to lift up for my office. And I'm like, this linear actuator has good reviews on Amazon, and it's, $50 for a set of 2. Like, perfect. You get it, you throw it on, it's no big deal, because if it breaks, it's your thing, you get new ones, you fix it, whatever. But when it's off and it's out there, that that has your name on it. That's right. Like a huge thing for me, putting my name on something and putting it out there. I want to make sure that it's the best quality. If somebody's going to be paying their hard-earned money for it, like, I know I'm putting my hard time into it, my hard-earned money into getting materials for it. When I buy something from somebody else, I expect it to be top quality. Because we're all working, we're all making money and trying to spend it the best we can, and nobody wants to waste their time working for something and pay for a product that sucks. And so it's almost more so like the name and the embarrassment of having the product break in the first place than the whole warranty thing. I don't ever want a product to come back, and which, of course, if you make a lot of stuff, it's inevitable. Something will happen eventually, especially if you're working with outside sources. But yeah, I want to keep it down to like bare minimum as nothingness as possible.
I guess it's a shitty reality that you got to keep in mind too. Is that people rarely, it happens, but people rarely write good things about things that happen because it's kind of expected. Maybe that's just it. It's like you buy something, you expect it to work out perfect. You know, in their head, it's just like, this is going to be awesome. They look at the seat, using mine as an example, and it's like, okay, that seat's cool, and they're not thinking about anything, you know, failing on it. And when something does, they're more likely to write something bad about it than if everything went fine and it works perfect. I mean, they're just not going to be thinking about it. It's not like people aren't shitty, you know. It's just when things go the way you expect, it's not like, wow, I really want to, unless you have something, you know, awesome about it. It's like the comfiest chair ever or something.
Yeah.
And somebody might
it's got to be like super over the top. But yeah, I think typically people are busy just enjoying the product, and then like, I mean, I know that's how I get. It's nothing like against the person, but if I get something that I like, I'm gonna just enjoy it. I'm not gonna be like taking all the time out to go and find a thing and write about it. But yeah, it is when something bad happens, people are eager to get on there. And
so then the goal is just that. It's to do a perfect job. And it's really sad too, because like I already have, kind of jumping all over the place. I don't think anybody really knows, but we were talking about linear actuators because the chair I'm making is going to recline, and I'm trying to make that super simple so it doesn't break. And it's just going to have basically a motor. A linear actuator is basically just an arm that extends. And so it's going to push the chair out. And that's how the whole thing works. So kind of everything depends on that linear actuator. And I already have one. I bought it for a cat food feeder that I was going to make a little bit ago. But I don't want to get into that. But I already have it. And like you said, when you're buying something for yourself or you're going to make something, this cat food feeder was going to be on our wall. And it didn't matter if it ever failed. I mean, our cats will starve and die, but whatever. But it was still for myself, and it was just something I got on eBay. It was really cheap. And now having this conversation, I'm like, I don't want to use that for this, because I do plan on selling the first chair to someone else. I mean, that's kind of the idea. I want to make it, I want to build it, I want to have the fun, and then I want to be able to sell it and, you know, just see what I can get out of it and see if this is the beginning of Man Candy Creations furniture line or something. But now I don't want to use that anymore. I'm terrified, especially the first chair. I don't want
just like a flop.
I put a $20 linear actuator in there, and most of them were like $50, and this one was like $15. So it was perfect for what I needed. But
because you always have to. Oh, look at that truck. Yeah, you always have to like overbuild things for their purpose. It's like, will the linear actuator be strong enough to just push the feet up and recline the chair? Yes. But what happens when the grandkids come over and they're jumping on the thing that's extended and putting wear and climbing on it, and the dog's jumping up on it, you know?
Right.
You know, obviously, if a freaking adult comes and jumps on it and it breaks, like, yeah, that's like one thing. But, you know, life is full of different things, and when you got kids crawling around and doing stuff, like, stuff needs to be tough to hold up. It's a hard environment.
So how does one test when they're in our position? You made a badass shelf for your bathroom. I don't really think you need to field test a shelf. I mean, you can pretty much just look at the welds and be like, this is good, but once you start getting into stuff.
I usually stand on or do a handstand on my products to like test the strength of it. Like if it's gonna be a bench or like a stand to hold up a tank or something, I'll usually like stand on top of it just to make sure it's gonna, and I weigh more than whatever's gonna go on it, so I basically just weight test it. But besides that, just to make sure there's no wiggle or something.
So have you ever seen like car companies testing cars? They got like these hydraulic rams and stuff, and they're on, like, they put a whole car on a platform. The platform's like wiggling around and stuff like that. It's like, is that basically like, I want to make this chair, and I do want to like use it for a little bit, but I don't want it to be in the house so long that it's
a worn chair.
It's used now.
Yeah.
I don't want that, but I mean, so how do you test it? Are we basically gonna have to come up with a design and make the chair and then just basically beat the shit out of it? Like put weights on it, and it was like, okay, this is basically a wasted chair. This one is not going to get sold. This is just my testing one, and this is how everything's going to work. So you can kind of test all that. You put in like,
well, yeah, I think testing,
doing body slams on
you can test
foot thing and
specific things. So like you said, like with the car, like for certain things they'll put the whole car on a thing, but in certain tests they just have the suspension attached to a thing,
right,
and they just pound it up and down to see how long it takes before the shock blows out.
right.
So you could do something like that where you basically make the same geometry, but it's not a chair. It's just the same metal brackets connected up with the arm sticking out with the lever, and you just work it back and forth, put a stack of plates on it, work it back and forth, see if that motor fries, jumping down, up and down on it, see if it messes it up, pull it in, you know, all the welds and the motor and the angles of everything is proper. So you're not actually testing the chair, you're testing the component of the chair, because
right.
You know that the steel base isn't going to break. You know that your cushions are going to be fine. So there's no need to like waste making a whole chair just to test the one piece you want to test. And then when you put it into the thing, you know it's going to be good.
But when you got moving parts, you kind of do need to test the whole thing as a unit. Like, well, I might have to make up, the chair is basically just going to have some switches, you know, that you've been in the movie theater, exact same freaking thing. I still want to crawl under one of those and see how they work, because I feel like that's got to be the epitome of this has to work a really long time.
Yeah, and getting kids pushing the buttons back and forth, and yeah, for sure.
In essence, the mechanism is going to be the same. There's going to be an up button and a down button, so the seat, you know, kind of reclines and does the exact movie theater thing. So it's almost like we got to come up with, I'm saying we because I talk to you about this shit most, but come up with an electronic circuit or something where I can just make like a sand dummy. I put a big heavy dude in it and I just hook up this thing to where it can just go up and down all day long. Once it goes down, it goes back up, back down, up, down, and you put like a counter on it somehow. So you come home from work and it's
tick,
like, oh, it's
tick,
got
tick, tick,
755 actuations on it today, and you just keep doing it until it finally breaks, and then you come home and you look and it just, I don't
seized
know,
up or
your house is on fire. And
the motor erupted into flames. Because I mean there is, and like that's kind of an extreme test because obviously there are breaking points for everything, and nothing's meant to not break at all, you know. Like when it comes to motors and stuff like that, you know, they eventually will overheat. And so, but yeah, I think if you test it with enough things, which again for me, I know we've talked about this before, wow, those tires are noisy. We've talked about it before with how I like to do things like very simple. And I like things to be simple, unique, and clean, and like somewhat robust. Kind of reliability of something simple, you know. How you talked about having a chair that's going to have the motor and recline and have bearings and stuff. I prefer to have a chair that's fully welded, doesn't move. Like may not be as neat, but I don't have to worry about stuff like that breaking. Now there are certain designs where I will go into something like that. You know, I'm not like putting it out completely, but especially for like in the beginning, like I want to make a couple basically just steadfast, sturdy, never gonna fall apart, like handed down to your grandkids type shit that I know is gonna like work and kind of get me off the ground and be fine, less moving parts, less things to fail, just kind of simple, clean design. And so that's kind of the road that I take. But I know that you like to make things more extravagant, more complicated. But I mean, that's part of how you design things, you know. And the shit that you make, I've seen the stuff that you've made, and it's super awesome. And that's one of the reasons that it's super awesome is because you don't go with just the everyday kind of same ideas that everybody has, you know.
I'm not going to deny that because, yes, I mean, I can't get out of my head a lot of times. I just have to make it cool. But this chair thing, I'm actually trying to go as simple as possible. But I have my favorite chair, in the house. It's a chair I was telling you about, that it's kind of a swinging rocking chair, and it has a footstool, and it reclines as well. And it's like, it almost just seems like a must to me. That is my favorite chair, and so the chair I want to make, I want to be somebody else's favorite chair. And it's like, sometimes I want to sit. Like when we're eating, I want to sit, and then when it's time to watch TV, I don't want to move. It's super comfy, and you recline. It's like, it's a must. So that's why I've been talking to you about, trying to make the recline mechanism as simple as possible. It doesn't have to be cool. I mean, the footstool, I don't know if I told you, is basically just going to be stored underneath with wheels. It's not going to recline with the rest of it. You'll actually be able to recline with the footstool still under it. But if you want the footstool, you just pull it out, and then voila, there it is. It's just kind of your old-fashioned ottoman, but it just has a storage place. And once it's stored, it looks like one complete kind of thing. So I mean, it's definitely simple, but I don't know, I feel like this has to be. It's not. You wouldn't do that to a kitchen chair or in your dining room.
Yeah.
That's going to be a chair,
yeah,
and so that's where you get to be like, okay, this is, it's going to be sturdy, it's going to last forever, but I feel like this has to be
complicated.
It's just got to have that function. It's got to have the 2-in-1 thing, because this is supposed to be kind of a lounge chair, very comfy.
A relaxing chair.
I don't know how that'll throw it off when you have the cold steel armrests. And I don't want to do the wrap that I talked about, because it's going to seem kind of grandma-y.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I guess that's where I'll just put it together and see if I like it. What I don't want to do, though, is put the whole thing together and then sit on it and be like, no, this sucks.
This is
I don't even want to sell it.
Yeah.
Like, maybe all the excitement that's in my head won't come to fruition when I'm finally done with it.
Yeah,
maybe. I'm sure shit is going to look cool, but...
Yeah, maybe, it's definitely going to look cool. Definitely maybe try to make almost a mock-up non-moving one first to see if the base chair is comfortable.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter how cool the moving mechanism is, if it's in the closed position and somebody wants to sit down and it's like a weird angle, or the arms are too high or too low. We've all sat in those chairs where it's like, something just doesn't fit my body right about this chair. Yeah, maybe do that, maybe make it in a way so that the feature can be added onto it, so you don't have to completely redo something, but make it so that you can kind of place the pieces in there and okay, yeah, that's fits, and then have a couple people sit in it, because that's another thing too with making furniture, and you only have yourself and you're making it yourself. Typically you're going to make something that feels right to you, but everybody's body type is different.
So I was going to say, I'm 6'2", so I'm worried that if this chair fits me, it's not going to be as good as I think it is.
Yeah, I've made...
So I'm going to have to get your short ass
something,
to come sit in it.
I'll bring Izzy over. Even as simple as an apron. I made an apron, just a waxed canvas apron that I sewed up, just a simple one for cooking. And I put it on, and it fit me perfectly, across the chest. And an apron is a pretty simple thing, and they make ones that are kind of universal for everybody, but with the wax canvas being a little bit thicker, it's more comfy if it's kind of fitted to you. And so it fit me pretty well. And then I put it on my girlfriend, and she's pretty short, and it was too wide across here, and the length was okay, but the top part was a little too wide. And then I put it on one of my other friends who's a big frame dude, and the top was good, the size around the sides were good, but it was really short on him, and it's so having things where you can either find a sweet spot where it can kind of fit everybody, or kind of having different size things that tailor to different people, and that goes kind of product to product. With a chair that's that complicated, you're not going to make different size chairs, you're going to just kind of find a comfy size. That's that's how furniture places do it.
Yeah, that's something I've noticed. I didn't know what the dimensions would be, so I just looked up measurements online, and it seems like they're all pretty much the same.
Yeah, that's helpful. I do that sometimes too when it comes to certain products. I'm I don't have a starting point. I need to at least get a base point, and then I can tweak it. But do I make it 60 inches or do I make it 24 inches? I don't know. So yeah, I like doing that too. But
so you've already made several projects, but what's your first one that you plan on selling?
The bench that I just completed. I want to try and sell that. But another fear for me is shipping. Like I'm a weirdo. Like I hate shipping.
I don't
hate
think
mailing
that's weird.
things. Well, like I just like I don't understand it.
I bet that's one of those things though. Once you do it, you figure it out.
Yeah,
it's like I won't
like,
eBay for the same reason.
Yeah,
I mean,
like,
that's simple. I mean, a little G.I. Joe or something like that.
Yeah.
How hard is that to ship? It's
Yeah.
not, but it's freaky.
Yeah, it's weird.
And
It's
you
like
don't know how it's
do I
gonna
get a
work.
box for it? Do I get an envelope? I don't know.
And then you
Like,
got a
yeah.
bench.
Yeah,
And that thing's not
exactly.
going to fold up either.
No, yeah,
So
it's
it's-
just solidly a big bench. So it's like, well, what do I do? I've never done it before. It's just something that I haven't done. It's kind of a fear for me. And so once I step out and do it, I just don't want to jump out there and be like, hey, who's ready to buy this? Somebody in Georgia buys it. And then I'm like, crap. I forgot to tell you it's going to be $50 in shipping because I don't know how to ship and I didn't factor that in, you know.
Can you just say plus shipping? Is that good enough? Or
You can, but I mean, yeah, I guess that works. I guess that's what most places
shipping
do.
rates vary?
But I think like on Etsy, I think Etsy is pretty smart about it. I think they have it to where you put in the dimensions and the weight of the item, and it will actually give you a shipping price.
Yeah.
And then all you have to do is like box it up, and I think you like print out a sticker or like print out a thing or something from them, and it all just gets taken out or paid through them somehow.
So it almost sounds like that's what you need to do is to, most of the time the manufacturer has to create like a special crate. I mean, this is just a stool,
Yeah.
so you could probably just get away with maybe a heavy duty box or
Yeah,
something.
I think a box with like a bunch of padding and wrapping inside.
So
make
you got to
sure it's, like,
do that.
stable.
You got to make your box, and then you're going to have to figure out how to weigh it. So we might have to go in on a scale, like a decent.
Like a little shipping scale or something.
Yeah, I don't think
Like
like
one
a
of those
bathroom
ones-
scale is going to work. But
Yeah, like one of those ones that they have at like the vet would be cool.
yeah,
Because it's just like a big
or
flat
the
scale.
airport.
Yeah.
Wonder how much
where
that goes.
Yeah, where the fuck do you put that too?
I don't know. Hopefully, it's something you can just
Or
store.
Or
vertically
something
or
too that I
something.
thought about was one of those like hoist scales. It's like a dial.
Oh, okay.
And then you can like just cherry pick it. So if you have like a giant table, you can just hook up straps to the center point and just pick it up off the ground, and it's just hanging by that thing, and you can weigh it.
Yeah, we can do that. What's kind of the range on those? Any idea?
I'm sure they make
Like you
different
could do a
ones.
big ass table, but what?
I'm sure
we
they
want to
make
weigh your
different
stool.
ones.
Is it
But I
gonna
mean,
work?
my stool is light enough to where I could just step on a scale, bathroom scale, and figure it out.
Right. Just hold it
Round up, yeah.
and then subtract it. Weigh yourself. I'm 400 pounds right now, and now with the chair, I'm 410.
372. Wait, what? What happened? Yeah, I'll have to ask. I got some friends that work in furniture. I'll have to ask them how they weigh their stuff for shipping.
Please do. And if you know, we haven't gotten any comments yet. That's really sad. I don't want to sound whiny. So come on. I mean, I've gotten a couple, the
You gotta
nice
have-
ones, but
You gotta have people watching the videos before they comment. If nobody's watching, nobody's gonna comment. But that's all right. In like 4 years, we'll have like 100 solid followers. And then we'll look back on these videos and
Shooting
be like,
for the
yeah,
stars.
that's where it's all started, right there. It's just staying persistent, trudging through. Joe Rogan said it on this podcast he was on the other day. He's like, a lot of people think that like I'm special or something. He's like, anybody can do what I do. You just have to keep going. It's just trudging through shit.
uh-huh.
You just don't stop. You just keep going, and just that not quitting, you get to where you're going eventually. It just can be slow and just grinding away, but you get there.
That's funny because I thought I heard somebody recently say that, Joe Rogan's great, but you got to be somebody really special in order to be able to achieve that. And then,
Yeah.
so Joe Rogan himself says,
Yeah, Joe Rogan says nay.
well, this very well may be that magic podcast number.
Yeah.
13. I've heard that a couple places now. One, I think the first one was from you, and then I just heard it from Aubrey Marcus. Maybe that's where you heard it as well. But
Could be.
that most podcasts don't make it to or beyond episode 13. I think this might be it. So that said, this may be our last podcast ever. It's been nice. I like that sound.
It's probably like Allison messaging you asking if she can sell your stuff faster.
Please hold that thought. This is an exciting message.
Oh, what is it?
I made I often, like when buying cars and stuff like that, I'll lowball the crap out of them. And it's not, trying to be mean, because I'm not a mean guy. But I will, from a business sense, I'll be like, you know what? I feel it's better for me to give you my offer, even though it's way too low. I'll even straight up say, is like, look, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to lowball you, I'm not trying to irritate you, whatever. This is what I can afford right now. I just wanted you to know that, and get back to me sometime, if you don't sell it in like a couple weeks or something like that, and my offer starts to sound a little bit better. I don't want you to even answer right now. I even said on this one, I was like, no response necessary. I just wanted to let you know that, this is, anyways, it was the metal cutting bandsaw that we've been talking about.
What?
Yeah, it's really freaking old, but he says it's been in storage for 10 years, so I mean that's pretty old already. And he used to use it all the time, and he just recently fired it up and oiled up everything, and it seems to be running great. But I mean, they're still making them, and it looks like the new ones are the same model. I mean, it even has the same name, but you like look at them, it's like you can see like some newness on them, like some fancy covers here and all that, but like all the main mechanisms. Wellsaw? Yeah, Wellsaw model number 58B. So they won't be able to see that. I'm gonna have to figure out how to put that on screen.
That's cool. Whoa, yeah, that thing is old looking, but it looks like one of those things that's like old and robust and like lasts forever.
It's one of those ones that operates in both positions. It acts as a kind of a chop saw, and then it goes vertically, and you can use it as a.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
But I mean, he's asking almost $500 for it, and I was like, hey, this guy's in Kingman too. It was kind of cool. The offer up was like, here's some search results for people outside your area that we thought you may want to, look at. And I was like, oh heck, it was like Kingman. That's, that's a good hour and a half, 2 hours away, I think. But I'm like, shit, I'll try. I told him, I was like, I don't mean to lowball you, and I realize it's way more. It's worth more than that. But I've got $250 I'd be willing to spend, and it's really far away from me. And driving that far, I'm basically going to be guaranteed to buy it. So I don't want to drive to Kingman and look at it and then come back with nothing. So basically, it's like $250 is I was looking at, and he wrote me back. But
what did he say?
He said, is this against the law to tell you what somebody else said on a podcast?
No.
I'm sure this guy doesn't. Well, I won't give his name.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
He said, I will be back in Kingman on the 1st. I will think about it, but I don't think I'll let it go for that cheap. I'm willing to negotiate, but that's cutting my price in half, yes. So think about it, and when I come back on the 1st, we'll see. So that's cool. I'm completely happy with that, because kind of when I'm cutting somebody's price in half, I'm already expecting. I don't get attached to it. I'm like, I'm expecting them to say no. But every so once in a while, man, people are like,
yeah, I think if you let them sit on that for a while, it'll go. I've been like that with stuff. I get like attached, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to go that low. And then I'm like, dang, I should have sold it.
Yeah.
Because it just ends up like sitting around, and it's like,
Well, that's the cool thing about being patient. If you're patient, I mean, it's happened with cars several times where I will do exactly that, and it'll be like a month and a half later, completely gone out of your mind, and they're like, hey, you still interested in that truck? I was like, yes, yeah. I gave you the price that I'd be willing to pay, because I mean, it's a friggin' killer price.
Yeah.
And they just had time to marinate on it, and it's one of those things where if you don't need it right now, you can kind of just, I mean, I don't need it, but it would definitely make our lives a hell of a lot easier.
Yeah.
It's one of my big concerns right now is just these 90-degree angles on this chair. So just on like 1-inch tube and stuff. I try to make a 1-inch or a 45 in them, and I put them together, and like I can get the 45 perfect because I got the jig now, but it's like the welding surface, it's like it's touching on the bottom and it's like too wide on the top because my angle was weird. So I'm trying to figure out how. Yesterday all day I was just putting my 45-degree angle thing on it, just trying to figure out how do I get this absolutely perfect. Because it's 3 inches, it could be that much harder to try to get those to line up, I think. Or maybe not, but.
One trick is you just gap it a little bit. You cut your angle. A video on this like tip video that I saw. You cut your 45s, put them in your jig, your true square jig. Instead of butting them up, pull them back so that they're not touching at any point. And you know they're at a 45, you tack it, and then you just fully weld it, fill the gap.
Do you get a good weld out of it though? It's like, to me, I feel like my welds are going to be ground down, like many, I'm sure, but I still want to start with a good weld. And if they're not the same on both sides, like if I have a 16th inch gap on one side, which makes a really good weld on this kind of stuff, but then it's like 1/8 inch on the other side, I'm gonna have to like do some kind of weave thing to get it to close up, and then so the welds are gonna look different. I don't want that.
Well, I mean, once you get a consistent cut, it won't be that bad. Like with my saw, I can get a good 45 on it.
Maybe I do just need to get one of those then.
Yeah, I mean they're quick and cheap, and they make it so much easier to cut than hand cutting it all.
I feel like we just went on a tangent, and most of it won't be able to be followed by most people.
It's all right. I would just leave it all in there. Like, don't really matter. It's usually how podcasts go. It's just full of tangents. There's actually a podcast called Tangentially Speaking.
What, is that all they do?
I think so.
It's bullshit about stuff like this.
Yeah, I think it's Chris Ryan, the dude who wrote that book Sex at Dawn.
Nope, I haven't read that.
He's it's like a psychologist or something, and he just talks about different stuff. But I think on his podcast, I haven't actually listened to it. I need to. I like a lot of his stuff. He's been on Joe Rogan, he's been on Aubrey Marcus, and I've heard him on Duncan Trussell's podcast, and I've always liked it. So I'll have to check his out. But yeah, I think his is called Tangentially Speaking.
I'll have to look that up. Maybe get some pointers.
Yeah.
I think we should sever this one, and
I think so.
All
right, kiddos. See you on the flip side. Stay pretty.
What?
I don't know.
Did you just stop that?
Mm-hmm.
Remember when we used to like motivate people at the end? Since that's what this whole thing was supposed to be about. It's like, hey guys, get out there and crush your dreams.
Told them to stay pretty. We weren't really like talking about like specific.
Yeah, so fuck you this week.